Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to another edition of Sports Shorts Daily presented by LaBerge Casino. Hope everyone had a safe New Year. Tommy Christ saying along with Ronnie Rance. Before we get started, definitely our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone down in New Orleans. The victims of a horrific uh, New Year's Day because it happened at 3:30 in the morning. Attack on Bourbon Street. 10 dead that we know of right now, 35 injured, including a couple police officers that were shot. And just a horrible way to start 2025, a horrible black eye for the city of New Orleans, for the Sugar Bowl, for the state of Louisiana, for the United States of America, for that matter. We don't know all the details yet as is us going on here at 11 a.m. Central Time. Different reports on who, what, why, when this happened. But Tommy, just a horrible thing. We want to be able to be light on.
Yeah, it truly was just an awful situation. I'm from New Orleans. I used to work in the French Quarter. Been in there many, many, many times. Not lately, but have been in the quarter countless times in my life. And it's just a tragedy in all ways you look at it. And just when you wake up and you're 2025 and you're like, okay, let's see, and then you got to look through all of that stuff. Made for a tough start, no question.
TK, yesterday, LSU got a win. The Tigers were an underdog against Baylor. Baylor had more to play for from a standpoint of they'd won 6 in a row. They were feeling good about themselves. The fans were more into the bowl game matchup of the Texas Bowl. They had more fans there. It was obviously in their home state. Uh, an opportunity for them to do something special. Dave Aranda to go against his old team. You felt like LSU had, lost their left tackle, their number one receiver. They had other players that opted out to go pro or transfer or whatever. And you thought, okay, well, what does LSU really have to play for? Are they too beat up by the lack of player, depth on their roster? Well, that wasn't the case. The first half was one of the best first halves the LSU Tigers have played all year.
Yeah, they certainly had some juice in them. Josh Williams had a big day closing out his career. He was on the national championship team back in 2019. So he's from the Houston area. He had a big day. Nussmeier looked good. Trey Green, I didn't like the fact that after the game, Brian Kelly said, Trey Green makes you forget about Mason Taylor. Come on, coach. I mean, that's like speaking without thinking. But Trey Green, certainly a lot of upside there, and the future is very bright for that guy. In LSU, and then the injury to Weeks was just terrible. The emotion showed by the Baylor team and all of his teammates was something. Apparently, he had surgery last night in Houston. It was a dislocated ankle. The doctors popped it back in on the field, kind of in front of the camera.
Yeah, you can see.
And so therefore, if it's just a dislocated ankle, I guess that's better than if it's a broken ankle. You would think a dislocated ankle, and if they're doing surgery, who knows if he practices in the spring or not? That'll be determined later. But it was a nice win, 9th win of the year for LSU. Good way to end the year. They did end with 3 straight wins, and they got it done. And their transfer portal class ranked number 1 or 2, depending on who you're reading it from. And then spring practice will be here before we know it. So maybe some optimism going into the next year for LSU football.
The Trey Green, 7 catches on the season, I believe, going into the game.
6 on the 6 was 5 or 6, and then he matched that. Or he had a coming out party, no doubt.
Yeah, it's 6 of them, 2 of them for touchdowns. Obviously Trey Green looked the part. And look, that's what bowl games are about, right? That growth between the end of November and the end of December, that month of just literally physical growth when you're 19 years old, as well as all the practices, the weight room, all the things you get to do, especially knowing that Mason Taylor wasn't going to play and that he's getting all those reps and get, with Nussmeier and with the first team and all that. I mean, you could see the growth and the comfort and that he showed. Now, the question on Mason Taylor is going to be how physical can he be as a blocker, at the next year. Obviously the tight end position nowadays, depending on your offense, it's asked to block a little more than others. LSU likes to run the football. They want their tight end to be a little bit physical at times, and so that'll be the only question mark on him. But as far as being a big target, catching the ball, being able to box out the defender with his old basketball skills, because this guy was a great basketball player in high school. He's got all those things, and it's gonna be fun to watch what he's capable of. At the next level. Nussmeier threw for over 300 yards, threw 3 touchdowns, did have a pick, and had a little bit of the old Nuss at times where he forced throws and maybe held on to the ball or did some things that you'd like for him to be a little bit more conservative about. But Nussmeier, I think Tommy's going to be going into 2025 as one of the top 5 leaders for the Heisman Trophy preseason.
He had a couple of drop passes too, would have changed those numbers a little bit, but that's part of it because guys make great catches sometimes on a bad throw. Back to Trey'Dez Green, Ronnie. This is a lesson you and I have talked about for decades. You tell people, be ready when your name is called. When your name is called, be ready to perform and get it to where they can't take you out of the lineup. Well, he had a couple touchdowns and some catches early this year. All of a sudden, he gets elevated on the depth chart, for lack of a better analogy there. And then he made it happen. He went and made some catches, made some plays, a few yards after getting contact. And so he stepped up. So did Keys on the defense. He gets the tip ball and the pick six, and he also played well in other spots on defense. So that's a lesson to all the youngsters. Be ready physically and mentally for when it's your turn or you get that opportunity or you get that call. Be ready to make the most of it.
Chris Hilton. I mean, but this was the Broncos, Zachary Bronco game. 3 touchdowns combined between Hilton and Green, both former teammates at Zachary High. This was the Chris Hilton that we kind of expected to see this year. He'd been banged up, injured. It took him a while to get going healthy. Then we know all the famous situations where he kept jumping for the ball and Brian Kelly got on him because he felt like, if he wouldn't have jumped, he would have caught some passes, and that got a lot of traction. Cam Newton had some thoughts on it and all that kind of stuff. Well, by the way, he didn't jump, even though he's a state champion high jumper. And he looks the part. I mean, the idea that you're going to have Anderson and Hilton and Green next year, and not to mention all the transfers you got coming in that are dogs elsewhere that are real dudes. I mean, wow, there's going to be some weapons on that football field next fall.
Well, I think what yesterday's game does for the LSU fans, it gives them a lot of optimism, a lot of reason to be excited. I mean, Baylor, they came in 8-4 and had won 6 straight, like we talked about. So they were 2-4 and turned the switch on. So I think it gives you a reason to be positive and think, hey, maybe next year is going to be a lot better than this year. It won't be sitting at 8-4. Maybe they'll be in that playoff hunt, maybe in the playoffs, try to win the SEC, the whole bit. So I think you saw enough yesterday of that. And again, it was Baylor. I get that. But still, I mean, Baylor, wasn't a replacement team like Tech was. I mean, they earned their way into this bowl game and basically a home game for them, although there's lots of LSU alumni and fans in the Houston area. So all in all, it was a good day for LSU football.
LSU finishes the season now 9-4. You know who else finished 9-4, Tommy? Alabama. The Alabama Crimson Tide finished 9-4. Can't remember the last time they lost 4 games.
Nick Saban's first year, they lost 4 games.
There you go. 2007. That's all you need to. And the thing about it is that, we knew that when Nick Saban left, oh, thank God. Now, the rest of the league can kind of, Alabama will come back to the rest of the league and kind of, it happened a lot faster than anyone anticipated. The fact that Alabama is back to reality and back to being just one of the SEC teams. And because for the last for many years, it was Alabama and everybody else. Then it was Alabama and Georgia were really the top 2 dogs, pun intended, over the last, 5-6 years. And now it's Georgia and Georgia and everybody else, seeing who's going to be in that second spot conversation. But unbelievable how, transfer portal, NIL, no Nick Saban, and now Alabama is just back to being one of the top 6-7 teams in the league.
Well, I remember in August we commented, Bama won't be the same. They'll still be good, and they'll still have some moments where they shine, but it's going to be different. And that proved out to be correct with the 4 losses. And I guess the 2 of the losses, when you look at what happened at Vanderbilt and the shellacking by Oklahoma, that's not just losses. That's getting your butt kicked. When Saban lost games in the last decade, it wasn't necessarily, 24-3 against a 500 club like Oklahoma. So we'll see. You're right. Now it's Georgia and a few other people, and we'll see. Of course, it'll all change due to the portal and NIL money and this, that, and the other. And we'll see what the Texas Longhorns can do today. That's the first game of 3 today.
Before we get to the Texas game, I want to talk about last night real quick. Boise State did not cover. They were anywhere from 11 to 13-point underdog. And the Penn State, they had a chance. Boise State did have a chance to backdoor cover a few times and didn't get it done. But that said, Penn State won by 17, Tommy. It felt like they won by 40 because I think if Penn State had just run the ball 3 times and on the 4th time throw it to 44, the number 1 tight end in the country, run it 3 times, throw it to 44, run it 3 times, throw it. They would have scored every time they had the football. For some reason, they got a little too cute at times. They averaged over 8 yards a rush. I mean, just keep it simple, stupid, and run the football and throw it to 44.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what, I almost at the end of the first quarter, I texted a couple of group text messages. I mean, this is men versus boys. And I wasn't just looking at the scoreboard. I'm looking at the line of scrimmage. I'm looking at the front 7, and I'm watching Boise just get manhandled. This is probably a bad example, but it's like when you played 12-year-old Little League tackle football and they let you scrimmage the 10-year-olds on the other end of the field for 5 plays at the end of practice, and it was just ridiculous. That's what it looked like. It was men versus boys. Jonte, finishes 28 yards short of breaking Barry Sanders' record. How about the difference of Sanders and Dickerson? Barry Sanders tweeted to Ashton Jonte, good luck. I've got my popcorn ready, going to watch the game. He was pulling for the guy to break his record. Dickerson, a different story in the NFL with Barkley. 2 different, one, Barry Sanders got class. Dickerson, he's like the weekend, no class. So anyway, but no, it was men versus boys. Penn State looked apart, but keep in mind they beat SMU and Boise. Okay, it's going to be different when they play. They play the winner of tonight's game between Notre Dame and Georgia. So that's going to be a little bit different for Penn State, but we'll let it play out.
Yeah, it was the line of scrimmage. If you want to know the difference between SEC, Big Ten football, and whatever conference Boise's in, there it is. Offensive line, defensive line, not even close. Tonight, of course, there's going to be a moment of silence. It'll be a different atmosphere. It's definitely going to affect the atmosphere in New Orleans between Notre Dame and Georgia. What do you have here? Georgia now a 0.5-point favorite. You still like the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I do like the Bulldogs. Just to find a way to get it done. They're going to, everybody's going to step it up. Backup quarterback Gunnar Stockton. And again, I was thinking of this yesterday, right? I mean, the backup quarterback at Georgia is probably not bad. Okay, let's just say Beck was still playing and all that. There's a reason he's the backup at Georgia. It means he's pretty good. Now, can he perform under the lights? Can he go against a team that has won 11 straight games like Notre Dame has done? There'll be more Georgia fans than Notre Dame fans in the Dome tonight. But that won't matter. It's going to matter what's on the field. And the team that makes the fewest mistakes is going to win. Obviously, if it's a 0.5-point spread now, it's a toss-up. The wise guys, the sharps, they all can't figure it out. Nobody's got a big edge. So the team that plays the best, makes the fewest mistakes, is going to win. And I think that's going to be the Georgia Bulldogs.
I'll say this, TK. I think that I'd say this, TK. I think that from what Kirby Smart is putting out there, he's got the ultimate confidence in his quarterback. I mean, this may be the ultimate insurance sales job, that we're hearing, but he's talking about how the players play hard for him, they rally behind him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. But I just love. I think he's the best coach in college football. I think they have one of the best defenses, if not, top 2-3 defense in college football. They've got the experience as a program, as a team, all that sort of thing. They're rested. They've had time to prepare the backup. So I'm going with Georgia. I'm sticking with it. Texas and Arizona State. Listen, Tommy, the underdogs have not done well in this playoffs. We keep all wanting to believe. And the big time programs keep dominating. So we've got to learn something eventually, right? If that's said, you got to go with Texas. I mean, you got to go with Texas. I mean, when are we going to stop beating our head against the wall, taking these underdogs when it's not even close?
Well, yesterday when we did the show, I was like leaning like I might like Arizona State in the points, But after reading some stuff last night and watching the line of scrimmage in last night's game, I already this morning have bet Texas minus 13. I just think that, they had an easy SEC schedule, but I don't know if there's such a thing as an easy SEC schedule, okay? They still played through that schedule, played Georgia twice, lost both times. But I just think they're far more battle-tested than Arizona State. 13 is a big number, but I've changed my mind from yesterday. I guess I could do that. I'm going to go Texas minus 13.
All right. Yeah, I just think if you unless you got a strong opinion one way or the other, I think you just at this point the big conferences, the big dogs have proven out. Now, again, if these games were played on home fields, if this game was played in Tempe or whatever, then it might be something different. But when these are played on neutral sites, you kind of got to go with the big conferences. TK, I got to get out of here. Tell us what's going on over at Tremont.
Well, Tremonti's and Coach Street Cafe will both be back open tomorrow, Thursday, January 2, with the regular hours. Don't forget the ESPN Bet Sportsbook at the casino. Lots to bet on, obviously. The Edge Lounge, big, going to be big again this weekend. So check all of that out. We'll be back Friday morning for another episode of Sports Shorts Daily. Back to 9 o'clock, so put that in your mind and follow us on all the social media platforms, and you won't miss a thing. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. Thoughts and prayers with everyone who lost loved ones and injured in New Orleans and that tragic situation that occurred in the middle of the night very early this morning. So our thoughts and prayers are with them, and we hope that that's, everything else in 2025 is a lot better. Ronnie, Happy New Year to you, and we look forward to Sports Shorts Daily, Sports Shorts Radio, having a bang-up year in 25.
All right, folks, please like and share. Happy New Year. Eat those black-eyed peas and all that, cabbage and everything for good luck. And we'll see you on Friday.
Thank you. On behalf of Ronnie Rance, I'm Tommy Price, and as I mentioned, Court Street Cafe and Tremonti's Meat and Seafood back open regular hours tomorrow, which is Thursday. Like and share this show. That helps. No matter whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please do that. And we hope to have just as much fun in 2025 as we did this past year. And again, like and share this show. That helps everybody. Happy New Year, everyone.